Big day today also for the Biden administration.
Yeah.
We're looking at 100 days in at how the administration has done on a whole variety of issues, and one of them is matters of race. And in fact, I'm going to walk over to the monitor where we've got some numbers for folks. You stay there.
We'll stay here.
I'm going to backwards walk over to the monitor. So our CBS poll found that about 55% of Americans at this point, 100 days in, approve of how President Biden is handling race relations in America. That's a poll that was taken after fired police officer Derek Chauvin was found guilty in the killing of George Floyd. President Biden is now calling on the Senate to pass the George Floyd Justice in Policing Act, a reminder that would ban chokeholds, would also make it easier to prosecute officers, and set up a national police misconduct registry. Here's the big picture. More than 290 people have been killed by police so far this year, and black Americans are killed by police at more than twice the rate of white Americans. That's why it's in the news every day. President Biden also says he is opposed to, quote, defunding the police, and he has paused plans to establish a police oversight commission. His administration is also using its more than $2 trillion infrastructure plan to address economic disparities. I'm back now, guys. Economic disparities between black and white Americans, including money to do things like replace lead pipes in Flint, Michigan. That was a big story. I remember being out there. And also in Mississippi, also had a water crisis there we didn't talk about quite as much. This was one of the 4 major crises he said he inherited when he entered office, and that's an overlook at what he's done to address it 100 days in.
But that alone is a full-time job because it appears, Tony, to be getting worse. It doesn't appear to be getting better.
There is that feeling.
Worse.
Yeah. There is that feeling.
So it'll be interesting to see what he has to say tonight.
All right, we're joined now by Marc Morial, the National Urban League president and CEO and former mayor of New Orleans. We should note Marc is married to CBS This Morning Saturday co-host Michelle Miller. That's a good thing because we love Michelle. So, Marc, good morning. Thanks for joining us. Marc, you heard the number that Tony just said. 55% of Americans in our poll say they approve of President Biden's handling of race relations. How do you think he's doing?
First of all, thank you for having me. Good morning, Anthony. The president has been purposeful and intentional about including racial justice components in every policy he's undertaken in the first 100 years. In COVID, he's expanded community-based vaccination sites. In the cabinet, with Vice President Harris and all the way through, he's had the most diverse cabinet in modern American history. In the American Rescue Plan, there are anti-poverty provisions and provisions to assist businesses owned by people of color, including African Americans. And his commitment to racial justice, his forward-leaning support for the George Floyd Justice in Policing Act, the minimum wage, along with the idea that infrastructure, and this is a recommendation we made to him both as a candidate and in the transition, has to include investments in human beings. So this president's start is purposeful, it's intentional, and the support amongst the public, I think, demonstrates that the president has used his moral voice to create a distinction between the poisonous philosophy of white supremacy and the idea of an America for everyone, an America with opportunity and pathways to progress for all people.
Marc, the president said he would prioritize racial justice, and you said you'd hold him to that. What more would you like to see?
Well, first of all, we need Kristen Clark to be confirmed as the chief civil rights enforcer, as Assistant Attorney General for Civil Rights. Number 2, we need passage of the Justice in Policing Act, the George Floyd Justice in Policing Act. We need a minimum wage increase, which is long overdue. We haven't had a national increase since 2007. And we need an assault on this pandemic of voter suppression now with 250 bills being introduced all across the nation. We need the weight of the presidency. We need the weight of the Justice Department. And we also need cooperation from what I would call the members of the United States Senate who seem to be hell-bent on blocking progress. The president's numbers demonstrate, and his electoral victory demonstrates, that he has, I think, a broad base of support amongst the American people. It's not universal, but it's broad, and I think it's deep because people want accomplishments. They want progress. And I think on race relations, President Biden, I believe, has gotten off to a powerful and a purposeful start, but there is a lot left to be done, Anthony. This 100-day, if you will, Marc, is sort of an artificial deadline But since it's part of our sort of tradition going back to President Franklin Roosevelt, it's an important time to talk about where the president is and where the nation is. And I'll say this, the other important thing is the president has changed the tone of governing to an inclusive tone of governing, away from a reality show, finger pointing, disparagement tone that existed for the last 4 years. And I think that creates pathways for him to achieve real progress. We will continue to hold him accountable, but so far, the start is purposeful.
Well, as you know, Mark, the Justice Department is now investigating not one but two police departments. Some say that's a sign that they're taking it seriously. President Biden is urging Congress to pass legislation. Oh, there he is. There you are. Mark, we lost you for just a second. So, you know, it's a very tense time between the communities of color and the police department. Police departments all over the country. What do you think needs to be done? How can we effectively address that issue? And what should Team Biden be doing about that at this particular time?
So I think that Merrick Garland and the Department of Justice have taken two important steps just in the last week, and that is to engage in pattern and practice investigations both in Minneapolis as well as in Louisville. That means that the president and his Justice Department are going to use the full weight and the full toolbox available to them on the issue of policing and improving trust. But yeah, these killings are gut-wrenching. They're hurtful. I have a 19-year-old son. When I see these young men, I shudder. I feel a sense of great pain, like all of us do. But this is what's important. The president, the Justice Department, the national government cannot fix the problem of policing alone. It takes every community, every mayor, city council, county exec. States like Maryland have put a marker down with the statewide law. Everyone has to be in this because this system is broken. Yeah. This system, for the most part, has lost great faith amongst the American people, and we need to restore it, but we need a new vision on how we keep communities safe.
Yeah, well, you can't fix it if you don't acknowledge it. It at least appears that the Biden administration is acknowledging, Houston, we have a big problem. Marc Morial, it's always good to see you. Our best to Michelle. Chances are you're going to see her before we do.
She's the best.
Yeah, we think she's the best, too. Thanks a lot. We will bring you a special report on the president's address to Congress that starts tonight at 9 o'clock Eastern right here on CBS.